स्पोर्ट्स से जुड़ी किसी भी छोटी या बड़ी अपडेट के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें स्पोर्ट्स तक और साथ ही किसी भी नोटिफिकेशन को पाने के लिए बेल आइकन को दबाना ना भूलें।
Yeah, it's obviously been a bit surreal. One of my friends rang me to check I was still alive. Everyone's talking as if I died. So it's, but yeah, look, it's obviously it is nice when you hear so many nice words said about you. Well, actually, last couple of days I've been, back at home. So I didn't see a lot of it until kind of last night. So I kind of let myself have a look last night.
Has it sunk in exactly what you've done for England in your time?
I suppose that's probably the bit. All those kind of words. Someone stopped me in this. I was driving in. He wound down the window, made me wound down the window, and said thank you very much. And I think that is a nice moment, really. So. Yeah, I'm just hopefully this week can go well. I can score some runs and then go.
When did you decide that this would be your last series with England, and when did you tell your coach and captain?
Well, it's hard to put it into words, but over the last 6 months, there's been signs in my mind that this was going to happen, and so I told Ruti before the game, and then told Trevor during the game.
And why leave one test, I guess, still to play? What was the defining factor?
Well, because in this day and age, it's very hard to keep anything quiet. And if it was 2-2, then I would have had to get my mouth shut. But when you do media or you do stuff, you ask questions. It's quite hard to constantly lie, if you're brutally honest. I mean, I've been pretty good at it, but stuff like there's certain stuff like you get asked questions and you're just not being true to yourself and this and that. So there might be a bit of fuss around during the week, but if it was 2-2, then I would have obviously kept my mouth shut. But when you've made that decision in your mind, it's always playing on your back of your mind that, and as soon as I told people, you feel a bit more of a release.
Honesty's good. So looking back on your time with England, what would be your personal highlight? And if you could do anything differently, would you?
Personal highlight, I mean, you can't really look too far past those 2 away series where, obviously I was man of the series and we won obviously Australia and India. That will always be me. That's the best I could play. And probably as a career as a whole, that I can look back and say I became the best player that I could become. And that actually means quite a lot to me. Yes, I've never been the most talented cricketer. I don't pretend I was, but I definitely think I got everything out of my ability.
Would you do anything differently if you had your time again?
I don't think I would change. I think that's I wouldn't. Of course, there's decisions that in hindsight are so easy to make. Clearly, the KP affair was a tough year. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Whether the fallout of that wasn't great for English cricket, it wasn't great for me. But I was involved in that decision without being, the bloke that actually made the final decision. But it's obviously the fallout for English cricket and that effect it had for 12 months wasn't great.
And how much would it mean to you to finish on a high here and get a big score?
Oh, it would be fantastic, obviously. It'd be great for England to win, most importantly. 4-1 sounds better than 3-2. But if I could, play a really good innings, that'd be fantastic.
James, can you pass the microphone to Ali behind? Thank you.
Hi, Alastair. Can you tell us about the moment that you told the rest of the dressing room, your teammates, and how they responded? Was there much emotion? What the reaction was?
Well, I was a couple of beers in, which I needed to be. Otherwise, I would have cried more than I actually did. I managed to hold it together. At the end of the game, I just said, look, it might be good news. It might be sad for some, and it might be happy for others. But it's time, and I've done my bit. And if picked, the next game is going to be my last game, and that's kind of all I said. There was a bit of silence for a little bit, and then I think Mo said something, and then everyone laughed, and we kind of got on with it, and had a nice evening in the changing room.
You mentioned about there have been signs in the last 6 months. Can you tell us what those signs are?
Well, for me, I've always had, I think, that mental edge over I've always been mentally incredibly tough and had that edge to everything I've done, and that just, that edge had kind of gone. That stuff which had I found easy before, it was just, wasn't quite there, and to me that was the biggest sign.
George?
You've obviously seen a lot of players come and go during your time, and some of them sort of been a bit burnt out. I wondered whether it crossed your mind to ask for 6 months off, to take the winter off and then have another look.
It did cross my mind briefly as the decision became clearer in my mind. But if you're looking over the last period of cricket, probably the last 2 or 3 years, I haven't played huge amounts of games. I've never felt that getting on another plane, getting on that, I haven't struggled with that. That's not been like anything to do. I haven't thought, here's another game of cricket. It's just been what I'm talking about that mental little bit which I feel as if I've lost. Like, you have 6 months off and then you come back, I don't think it would have been there. And I think for me, once the decision was in my mind, and you obviously ask people about it along the way, and then they say that you know. And I honestly think that's so true, for me anyway.
Dave?
Alastair, I don't know what you think about this idea. You probably heard it, that your international retirement's almost the last of a dying breed in terms of Test cricket, in terms of the advent of T20, the dominance perhaps of T20. I wonder if you could talk about that issue, please.
Well, I think naturally that kids are going to be, when they introduce the game of cricket, they're going to be more, because the razzmatazz, the T20, because it's there. Absolutely, you've seen it. I've seen it in the way kids come into the Essex team as youngsters. Their attacking game is better than their defensive game. So that is fact, I believe. And maybe, I'm not sure I'm the last of dying breed, but there will be certainly less cricketers, of my ilk, I suppose, who are naturally suited to red ball cricket more than white ball cricket, because I think the kids will have just the diet of T20. I know we played T20 when we were younger, but it was still, you built an innings the first 4 or 5, not you try and whack it over the keeper's head third ball. That's because that's what's happening. So I don't think we should be scared of it at cricket. We just got to we have to embrace it. I think the game is embracing it, but they're probably if we play less Test cricket, which I think might happen, is still have the importance on it. And actually, by playing less, it might mean it has more importance.
Paul first and then Dee.
Alastair, you mentioned the KP situation and the aftermath of that. Was it your lowest point, and could anything have been handled differently?
I think it could have been handled differently. I think the moment when Andrew Strauss came on board and he came out and he said he made the decision, for me personally, that was the best thing that could have happened. I have a regret over it, because it wasn't great for English cricket, the whole fallout of it. So I can't remember what your first question was, actually. Was it the lowest point, and were you planning hanging on in there when there was a lot of people saying you should go? I think the game at the end of the Sri Lanka series, stroke first game at Lords, second game at Lords, that kind of period there was probably the lowest I was. Yeah.
And could you have gone then? Are you happy that you showed the stubbornness to carry on? Absolutely.
I think that's probably when it was real tough, I didn't throw the towel in. I still believe I was the best man for the job and the right man to be England captain at that time. It wasn't easy by any stage, and you could have taken the easy option and thrown the towel in, but I didn't. And I got, this is going to sound very selfish, I got the reward, but no, the team got the reward with a winner, the Ashes in 2015, which is just brilliant.
You've obviously faced a lot of different challenges, different bowlers. Who's been the kind of toughest opponent that you've faced up to?
Well, I think I must regret getting Ishant Sharma out as my wicket, because he's kind of got his revenge constantly over the last couple of series. Clearly the ball going away from me from around the wicket, I found the hardest, to conquer as a thing. But in general, a bowler who maybe not necessarily the quickest, but who constantly hits line and length, probably almost goes back to my, when I played as an 11-year-old, when an old 60-year-old just dropped on the length and I couldn't get him off the square. It kind of is the same kind of thing. I've never had the power and the shots to knock bowlers off their length very often. And I think, so a bowler who could hang it in there, not give me the pace to work with, I found the hardest.
And I know you've still got one more game, but have you had any chance to think about what you might do in the future? Some of the people who've played tributes have said, you can't be lost to English cricket. There must be a role for you at some point in the future. Would you like to stay in the game? Have you given it any thought?
That's nice of them to say that. Yeah, I'd love to stay in the game. I'm still going to play for Essex. I know that's kind of been brushed under the carpet a little bit. I'm really looking forward to playing that. I think it'd be a big step to go from, playing everything every day. All I've kind of ever lived for is playing cricket and chasing my dreams. Then to suddenly not have that at all, that would be a big thing. So it's great that Essex still want me, and I'm determined next year after a break this winter to go and score some runs there and help them to win some trophies again. That'd be fantastic with some great people. But clearly, if that's if that mentally I don't play it, or if it's not going well, but I don't have that buzz, and I won't hang around just because that's not the way I go about things. And we will see. Every day, I've never really done any media. I've never done any coaching. I've just focused really on trying to score runs for England and Essex. And I thought whenever this day came, I will cross that bridge. And it's kind of what's going to happen. I'm going to definitely have a few months off now and go back home. I imagine I'll be changing nappies after what happened with Isabel. I think I'll be getting payback for that, and then we'll cross whatever happens in the new year, and it'll be exciting.
We'll take three more, one question each. Jonathan, Mel, and then we'll finish with Alan.
Alastair, what made you first fall in love with cricket in the first place, and was it hard sort of sacrificing a lot of things in order to pursue that as a career?
I don't think it was hard sacrificing at all. I think, I was, as people probably know, I was stubborn enough, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. And that's so. If you're missing out on a stag trip, or you're missing out on a lad's party, or you're missing out all that kind of stuff, it was the right thing for me to do. So I don't think it was a sacrifice that way. Obviously, the little bits of you kind of rely on other people a bit more. So obviously at home with the family and with the farming and stuff. All that wouldn't be there when I came back to it. It wasn't for people, like Alice's mum and dad and their family and the friends who kind of help Alice out all the time. That's been so important. So,
we'll take three more, one question each. Jonathan, Mel, and then we'll finish with Alan.
Alastair, what made you first fall in love with cricket in the first place, and was it hard sort of sacrificing a lot of things in order to pursue that as a career?
I don't think it was hard sacrificing at all. I think, I was, as people probably know, I was stubborn enough, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. And that's so. If you're missing out on a stag trip, or you're missing out on a lad's party, or you're missing out all that kind of stuff, it was the right thing for me to do. So I don't think it was a sacrifice that way. Obviously, the little bits of you kind of rely on other people a bit more. So obviously at home with the family and with the farming and stuff. All that wouldn't be there when I came back to it. It wasn't for people, like Alice's mum and dad and their family and the friends who kind of help Alice out all the time. That's been so important. So they've probably put more of a sacrifice in than I have in terms of that side of things. So when I do go back home and there's, things are still running smoothly, if you know what I mean. And that's so people it's not just kind of my effort. Yes, I've put like the stuff in on my game, but to have that when you go back to is very special. So they've put in a lot more of a sacrifice, I think, than I have, because I've been able to go and chase it as well. And what's the other question?
What made you fall in love with the game?
I think for me, it's the battle between bat and ball is a one-on-one thing. So I've loved that stuff, but you play it in a team. I think that's, I love the individual sport stuff, but the experience that I've had with some great people over 12 years, 15 years. Like, if you're on your own, I don't think in this individual sport, you don't get that. But with batting, you get that individual thing. This is me versus the bowler. But then you get your team as well, and that's probably why it suits me down to the ground.
Mel, just...
Alastair, since we've jumped on that plane to fly to India and make a debut, how how much have you changed as a person, or what's changed and what's still the same? And I guess also with the dearth of, they're finding it so hard to find another opening partner. It's not a great era for opening batsmen. Do you think maybe everyone appreciates it a little bit more, how hard it is now?
I'd hope. I'm sure I've definitely changed as a person. I've probably become more confident in certain situations, kind of leadership. I think the one thing about the captaincy, you are put in, it gives you that thing to grow, and you're thrown into so many situations that you can only be better at that as a person in terms of yourself. I hope I'm still the same. I hope I'm still the same kind of person I was when I started. You're going to have to ask, people who know me best. I think they'll say that. They'll still think I'm stubborn. They'll still think I'm single-minded. But hopefully it's still okay to be around. And I think everyone knows it's the toughest job in the job. And I'm still going to say that now I finished it.
Alastair, I was just going to ask about the England testing. Sort of where you leave the team now. What's your sort of assessment of where the team is at, where it's going to go now without you, and possibly something about Joe's captaincy, obviously having overlapped with yourself, but now is it possibly his chance to really sort of put his stamp on the team?
Well, I think he is putting his stamp on the team. I think he's growing every day into the role, and as I found with my captaincy, it was. The first couple of years I was a very different captain to the second couple of years, and I see that every team. I think they're obviously in a really good space in home series. I think we're incredibly good sides playing at home, and the challenge is can we be more successful over abroad and be a bit more consistent. That's where I think that side is. I've never seen a more. This team now is more talented than any other team I've played in as a group of people. They can do special things on their day. It's just whether we can get a bit more consistent as a side, and I think that's the next challenge. And obviously being more adept to playing away from home.